We appreciate all of the guests who have appeared on our show and sincerely thank them for providing you, our audience, with useful information. However, the advice our guests provide is theirs, and we encourage you to seek out a professional if you have specific questions about any topic we cover on the Crushing Debt podcast. On this week's episode of the podcast, Out of the Box Gifts.
Welcome to the Crushing Debt Podcast with your host, Florida attorney Sean Yesner, where our goal is to help you get rid of the financial bullies in your life.
So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Sean Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law, and I have a guest with me this week to talk about some unique gifts and other ideas, someone that I've used personally here a few times, and I can attest to how great a job they do. But before we get to my guest, I do want to talk a little bit about the show's sponsor. He is Sam Cohen of Attorneys First Insurance. He writes errors and omissions insurance for attorneys and title companies all over the country. Now, if you're somewhere outside the state of Florida and you want to see if Sam can help you with your E&O coverage, you can contact him, sam@attorneysfirst.com, or go to the website, which is attorneysfirst.com. If Sam is not licensed in your state, he can get licensed in your state. He can refer you to somebody licensed in your state. So if you're an attorney or a title company, I would ask that you either contact Sam and see what he can do when your malpractice coverage comes up for renewal, or if you know someone you can refer him to, an attorney or title company, I would really appreciate that. But I want to turn my attention this week to my guest. He graduated from the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York in 1990. Since that time, he's continued developing his culinary skills as well as his understanding of the business model for fresh food delivery. He started cooking for a variety of restaurants ranging from informal dining at the Cheesecake Factory to fine dining as executive chef at the Sundial, high atop the Peachtree Plaza in Atlanta, Georgia. He served as a chef for some of the country's most respected hotels, including the Hyatt, the Crown Plaza, the Hilton, the DoubleTree as executive chef of fine dining, the Wyndham as executive chef in Atlanta and Chicago. He was also awarded a bronze medal in the U.S. Chef's Open. In 1998, he ventured out on his own. Using his broad base of knowledge and experience, he opened Culinary Accents, catering for all occasions, and in 1999, he purchased Instead of Flowers, a gourmet food delivery service. In 2018, he opened his second location here in Tampa Bay, which is how I met the company and him, and so I want to welcome my guest this week, Micah Serwitz. Welcome, Micah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
So, like I said, Instead of Flowers is something that I have used before, and I'll take a stab at describing what it is. You can obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but it is a meal delivery service, but a fine meal, a good meal delivery service. It's not, it's not frozen foods. It's not pre-made foods. It's all fresh stuff. And it's intended to be as a gift or as help for someone. So a lot of the times that I've used it, we had a neighbor here in the neighborhood who was very involved in our association. She ended up having a heart attack, so we sent her some meals when she got back from the hospital. We had a family out here in the neighborhood that lost their house in a fire, and so we sent them meals to the place where they were staying. I know that people have ordered meals as Christmas dinners, as Thanksgiving dinners, for babies, for deaths, for all those types of life events. Am I getting it right? Am I in the ballpark?
You're doing great. You're doing great. That's exactly what we do. I mean, it's unlike meal replacement companies. People don't necessarily order a week's worth of food in, a 4-person portion that they send to their house and put in the fridge or the freezer and pull out as they need it. We're not Uber Eats. We don't call Instead of Flowers because you're hungry. It's more of a thought planning gift idea, like you said. New moms, new homes, get well soon, sorry about the passing of a relative. And we do, 3-course gourmet meals. We have standard meals, deluxe meals. We have a couple of premium meals. And all of our meals basically include salad, an entree, a starch, a vegetable, rolls, and dessert. Each of the items are beautifully wrapped and packaged. They come with heating instructions. You're not cooking raw product. You're not reheating fully cooked product. You're getting it perfectly cooked by the time you follow the directions that come with meals. And that is basically why I think we have a niche in the market, because we're unlike so many of the other newer companies that are coming out there with meal delivery.
Yeah, and I know that when I ordered for the family that had experienced the fire, you also have kids meals. So I think I got like a pasta meal for two, and then I think I got like chicken nuggets and mac and cheese for the kids, and it all came with bread and dessert, and they loved it. They found me the next time we had an event to thank me, versus, me and my wife. I'm no slouch. I'm no chef, but I'm no slouch. But this was a lot easier than having to figure out what are we going to make for a family of 5. We just picked off the menu and got, everyone something that we thought they'd enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about it is we have something called a recipient's choice, which is similar to a gift card. But, everybody has gift cards. So you can send a monetary amount gift card, but you can also prepay for a standard meal or a deluxe meal for 2, 4, or 6 people and have your recipient choose what they want, because that's usually the big thing. I don't know what they want. I don't know if they eat pork. I don't know if they eat fish. I don't know if well, you don't have to. You can just place a recipient's choice meal and let the recipient choose. You're prepaying for tax and delivery in advance, and then they just go online and redeem whatever they want whenever they want it. And it seems to work out really well for the recipient.
So how did you come upon the name Instead of Flowers?
Well, Instead of Flowers, as you read in the introductory, when I started my catering company in 1998, I was actually looking for a commercial kitchen for my catering company, and I happened upon the business Instead of Flowers. So I can't take the credit for coming up with the name Instead of Flowers. It was a business that has since been run out of business. The doors were locked, the phones were turned off, and I basically revived it and ran it along with my catering company side by side. Fast forward many, many, many years later, full service catering is not in the cards for me any longer. We are 100% involved with Instead of Flowers.
Wow. So I know we've talked a little bit about, like I said, the fire, the heart attack, the births, the deaths. What are some other reasons? Have you had anyone call and say, I wanted to get a meal because of blank, and you went, that's kind of neat. That's kind of interesting. Has there been anything like that, or is it the typical?
No, all the time. I mean, one of the card templates that we have is like, just because. That's it. I just wanted to send thinking of you. Just thinking of you, just because I just want to send something. But I mean, we have folks sending it to each other from the tennis group, from the choir group, from the Mahjong group, from the Bible study group, from, any occasion you can think of. You got birthdays, you got anniversaries, you got get well soons, the new babies, the new homes. Congratulations on graduating. Really for the same reason that you would send flowers, that you would send any other type of gift to somebody. You would just send a dinner instead. And, a lot of our customers are telling us it's kind of like getting white linen restaurant food delivered to your home, as opposed to the pizza, the Chinese food, barbecue, things that you would get from, Uber Eats and any other, hot meal delivery vendor.
Yeah. And that's all the feedback that I've ever received has been that the food has been tremendous. So I've always received. So and I think you also touched on this as well, but what makes, speaking of meal delivery services, what makes Instead of Flowers different than a meal delivery service?
Well, I think that's basically it, is, the way that we prepare what we prepare. When you go to a restaurant, it's ding, ding, take this to table 22, whatever it is. With us, we have to actually cook our food so correctly that we have to cool it down properly, wrap it properly, deliver it properly. So when the customer follows the heating instructions, they're actually getting a perfectly cooked meal on their dinner table. So that's what makes us unique. It's not just a matter of sending hot food or sending a week's worth of meal to some, most of the meal replacement companies people are getting it for themselves. It's a convenience factor for them. I don't want to cook. I don't like to cook. I don't want to shop. But they're either sending you raw food with a recipe card, or they're sending you frozen food that's been shipped ground, FedEx, UPS, that you're boiling in a bag and trying to get dinner on the table. So that's where we're different. We're not hot food. We're not raw food. We're not frozen food. We're delivered fresh, beautifully wrapped and packaged with heating instructions, so you can have a 3-course meal on the table for 2, 4, 6 people or any increment thereof within 20 minutes.
So a couple other questions that brought up is, we're recording this episode on a Wednesday. So if I said I needed to get a meal for somebody, what's the lead time? What's the prep time? If I were to order today, how soon could somebody have a meal delivered?
Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
We don't do same day. We do order by 3 p.m. one day for delivery the next. So that's basically, you call it 2:59, you're going to be able to get it the next day. You call it 3:01, it's going to be a tough call.
Got it. And at least right now, I know you're in Atlanta. You have Tom here in Tampa. So those are the only 2 cities that you operate in for now?
They're the only 2 cities that we actually have full-service kitchens and crew out of, but we actually do ship nationwide.
Oh.
I will tell you that the shipping is like putting a small person on a plane and sending it overnight, but we do shipping across the country, and more of it, obviously, nowadays. With us being in Georgia and the other one, and Tom being in Florida, certainly going to anywhere in Florida and Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee or any state contiguous to those states, much more reasonable to get. But we ship, to New York and Chicago and California pretty much on a daily basis. Same thing. It's got to be sent overnight. So, that's why the pricing is a little bit more expensive, because some of the other people that some might think are competitors are ground shipping it, and we just can't do it. We serve salads with our meals, and it's got to be sent overnight.
Right. Is there a radius where you would start to ship versus having it delivered, like a 50-mile radius of Tampa or a 25-mile radius of Atlanta or something like that?
No, you're exactly right. It is 50 miles-ish. Like from the Tampa location, we'll go to Sarasota delivered. So we'll go to Sarasota. We'll go to, all 5 main counties in Florida, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Citrus.
Pasco.
Yeah. And same in Atlanta. All over, within 50 miles of our Atlanta location. It's pretty much hand delivered by driver. Anything outside of that is an overnight delivery.
Okay. And I recall when I ordered, it was easy. The website is insteadofflowers.com. Is that?
That's it.
Okay. And so you just go to that website and you can order whatever you want off of the website.
You can. I mean, you can see all the different menus and all the different pictures and everything that we do. But if you're sending it to somebody else, 90% of the people that send it don't know what their recipient wants. So you would send something called a recipient's choice or a gift card. They both basically do the same thing. The gift card would be like anybody else's, a monetary amount gift card, a tax and delivery, and the meal would come off of. Recipient's choice gives you the option of prepaying for the meal, the tax, and the delivery. And that way the recipient can just log on, use their recipient's choice code, and choose what they'd like and when they'd like it.
Okay. And if I recall, the Instead of Flowers website does distinguish between whether you're ordering from Tampa or Atlanta. Am I right? Or is it just an order?
Well, since October 3rd, we have a brand new website. So it used to be you log on to insteadofflowers.com and you would click the bubble of whether you wanted Florida or Georgia. That is no longer. Now you just go to insteadofflowers.com. And back of the system knows by the recipient's zip code which store that order is going to be delivered from.
Okay. Got it. So I would sort of be remiss if I didn't ask. We're recording this hopefully towards the end of the pandemic, hopefully towards the end of COVID. We're actually recording this on Inauguration Day, so we'll see what happens here in about 30 minutes. But how has COVID impacted Instead of Flowers?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, certainly our sales have increased during COVID. Because this is what we do and all of what we do. So it didn't take much of a transition for us to learn how to deal with delivery. But because of the safety factors, that's where the tough part was for us, making sure that all of the staff members stayed safe, the drivers stayed safe, the touchless delivery was happening. And then, of course, back early on in the pandemic, probably April, May of last year, when food became scarce. Toilet paper, paper towels. Well, it became scarce for us too. And so it was hard to, not knowing what you were going to get delivered, meaning what we were going to get delivered from our vendors and purveyors that we would be able to have in order to produce the product that we needed. So though we had an increase in sale, we had our challenges as well.
Wow. Any plans to expand beyond Atlanta or Tampa?
Yeah, there are. I think we need to go somewhere west. We haven't made an official decision yet, but I'm thinking possibly in the Colorado or Texas area. That way our overnight shipping to somewhere in the West Coast won't be as high as it is right now.
Wow. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being a guest on the show. Is there anything that we didn't talk about? Anything that you wanted to add or cover?
Well, I think we covered everything. I really appreciate you having me on. We just want people to know that we are certainly a gift alternative that folks might not have heard of or thought about till now. So please visit insteadoflowers.com and give us any thoughts and feedback that you have. And we'll hope that, as you say, this pandemic is over sooner than later.
Right, sooner rather than later. And I'll put in my testimonial. Like I said, I've used Instead of Flowers. I've never eaten Instead of Flowers yet. I need to order a meal from you all and taste all this delicious food that I keep hearing about. But no, I've certainly used Instead of Flowers a bunch of times. We'll continue to use Instead of Flowers. And one of the things we talked about pre-recording is how we fit Instead of Flowers into podcast about eliminating debt. And like I said, there's two versions to the story here. Number one, like you said, you started as a chef, you acquired Instead of Flowers, and this has become your primary way of making a living. And so I'm sure that there is a story there in terms of generating income and turning side hustles into your primary way of life. But then also from the concept of Instead of Flowers itself, in terms of somebody that might want to save a little bit of money by providing somebody with a gift. It's not very expensive. I can attest from experience, and it's certainly not expensive for the quality of the food that the recipients keep telling me about. So a way to give a great gift, give a great meal at something that's not going to break the bank. So I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on.
So I think that'll do it for this week's episode of the podcast. I do want to remind everybody the Become Debt Free book, my book, Become Debt Free, is still available. You can go to SeanMYesner.com/Become Debt Free and pick up some more ideas about how to increase revenue, how to decrease expenses. Certainly contact Micah, contact Tom at the insteadoflowers.com website. Again, I'll post that link in the notes, so you can just click on the link and go there. If you have a situation where you may need to send somebody a gift, I can tell you from experience that the recipient will not be disappointed by receiving something from Instead of Flowers, by receiving a meal from Instead of Flowers. Thanks again to Micah for being on the show. And like I say at the end of every episode, I hope that at the end of the month you have more money rather than at the end of the money you have more month. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, and we will catch you in next week's episode.
If you have questions that you think would make a great topic for a future episode, please email Sean or connect with us on social media. Sean Yesner and Yesner Law, PL, are Florida licensed attorneys. The information contained in this week's episode is not a substitute for legal advice. Your situation may differ, especially if you are located somewhere other than the state of Florida. If you have questions, please contact our office or contact a local attorney. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.